Kirby again as we launch into the 15th episode of Zoo Crew Revue, where we will be reviewing the 14th issue of Captain Carrot and his amazing zoo crew and pair it with the classic Looney Tunes short, Stupor Duck. Our cover is pencil and inked by Scott Shaw as always. Crisis on Earth C, Book 1. Our cover is a wonderful homage to the classic JLA-JSA annual team-ups, with the central image surrounded by the floating heads of the Zoo Crew on the left, the main Just'a Lotta Animals on the right, Wonder Wabbit, Aqua Duck, The Crash, Green Lambkin, and the Bat Mouse. And the anthropomorphic animal heads of the creators along the bottom: Scotty Shaw, a terrier; E. Nelson Birdwell, a canary; Owl Gordon; Duck Giordano, which has been a consistent joke within the book itself from the get-go; and Roy Tomcat. And our main image features Super Squirrel facing off against Captain Carrot over the Los Antelopes city skyline. Back off, Big Nose. I'm taking over this Earth. Super Squirrel, but you're not real. I created you. Ooh. And here we thought we made up both of them, is Scotty Shaw's response along the bottom, as the little arrow points towards the creator saying, "Confused? Don't worry, so are these guys." Crisis on Earth C has a cover date of April 1983, an on-sale date of January 27th, 1983. Our story is plotted by E. Nelson Bridwell, scripted and penciled by Scott Shaw, inked by Al Gordon and Carolyn Lay, lettered by Carrie Spiegel, colored by Thomas J. Zucco, and edited by Roy Thomas. The Just'a Lotta Animals are credited as being created by Roy Thomas, Scott Shaw, Jerry Conway, and E. Nelson Bridwell, which makes sense given that they were introduced in the special and first issue back when Conway was helped getting the series going, and Bridwell helped give them the actual personalities that we'll see in this issue. So I think all in all, that's pretty fair. Our story begins already in progress as the first Natural Bank is being held up on Rodento Drive by none other than our old fiend from issue 2, Armadillo. Our robber has a classic money sign sack in his hand as he threatens the bank tellers. Old Armadillo's gonna make hisself a little old cash withdrawal. This ain't bad for starters, but I aim to get into your main vault and the bake box. But don't bother giving me the combination, though. I reckon I'll just tear off the vault door and help myself. Well, that was a heap more fun than threatening one of them automated tellers. Heck, I feel so good, I'm getting jealous of myself. What the? As our illustrious team arrives on the scene. Hold it right there, Plate Puss. Clever, clever. Write your own dialogue, pal. Let me through, gang. I owe this clown one. So again, a nice little bit of continuity with our second issue. And I actually went back and listened to my recording of that episode. And man, that was like listening to a season 1 Simpsons episode. None of the voices are right. Pig Iron sounded like a bad Sylvester Stallone. On a beautiful splash page, Pig Iron holds true to his word, with one punch sending Armadillo into the air, as the rest of the zoo crew are eager to join the fight. Nice shot, Pig Iron! Your right hook sending Armadillo tumbling like a king-size tumbleweed. Thank Clip-on we were on patrol, Captain. Well, you see my next punch, Cappy. It'll send that third-rate Tex critter all the way back to the Lone Stalk State. And I haven't been mentioning it, but Alley Cat Tabra's dialogue has really started to feature a lot more Doctor Strange-esque exclamations over the past couple of issues. Suddenly, Armadillo starts to disappear in an effect similar to the surprint used in Who's Who. I may be using that incorrectly, but I don't care. By the holy mountain of hearts, Magic Wanda has no effect on him. See? Told you I wasn't lying. However, there's no rest for the Wascally, as Captain Carrot sees in terror one of his own creations. It's that synthetic composite of a dozen creatures. The awesome animal android, Amazu. But that's impossible. He can't exist. Amazu is truly a menagerie of animal parts, with an elephant's head, A rhino torso, gorilla arms, lion paws, cheetah legs, bird talons and wings, a gator's tail, and a Mazo's red skull cap, but looks way more dynamic than classic Amazo ever did. Sorry, folks, I am just not a fan of any of Sikowski's designs, barring maybe Kanjaro. Amazu delivers a devastating kick to the captain in midair.
Heed your teammates, you pretentious carrot cruncher.
Rubber Duck tries to knock the new foe out, but he starts to disappear just as Armadillo did. And as the zoo crew tries to catch their breath and make sense of what just happened.
What gives, Cappy? Do you think Armadillo's old boss, Brother Hood's behind the Vanishing Act?
And how'd you know who that Amazu creep was? We've never fought him before. You'll never believe me, gang. Check out the area. I've gotta go. And my questions with this little exchange do get addressed later on in this issue, so all good there. Captain Carrot hops back into the Z building just as his powers begin to wear off to try and finish up the latest issue of Just'a Lotta Animals. Fretting and thinking to himself while he works, who am I kidding? I can't concentrate on this stuff. Not after my zoo crew is attacked by Amazu, an imaginary character out of my own funny book series. What's going on anyway? Next thing you know, I'll be seeing old Super Squirrel himself. Maybe tumbling through some JLA back issues will give me a clue. Now where is...
This is what you're looking for?
Oh yeah, thanks. Say I... What? Super Squirrel?
In the furry flesh, chum.
As he is handed a back issue by one of his own creations. Chapter 1, Oops, Wrong Planet, begins on the bottom third of the page as Rodney turns around and sees the main JLA from the cover, at first mistaking them for late trick-or-treaters, but comes to terms with it as he lays eyes on Wonder Wabbit, with his eyes out and tongue out like he is a Tex Avery wolf, as Super Squirrel proclaims, "Excitable little fellow, isn't he?" Rodney, while still in a bit of shock, has Super Squirrel try to explain.
Lend me your oversized ears, Rodney. I realize this is hard to swallow, but I have an explanation of sorts. If those comic books of yours are as accurate as they sound, you already know something about the six of us. Batmouse, who with his sidekick Boyd, the Robin Wonder, wages a never-ending war on such bizarre criminals as the Porker, the fastest animal alive, the Crash, who fights super scientific villains like Weather Weasel, Aqua Duck, the amphibious avenger of the seven seas, the greatest swimmer since Esturtle Williams, Gorgeous Wonder Wabbit, Animalizon Princess from Parrot Eyes Island, Green Lambkin, stargazing guardian of space who combats Hector Hamhawk and other futuristic felons. And of course, myself, Super Squirrel, the first and most powerful superhero of them all, as my foe Lex Lemur learned. Together, we founded a special society for heroes dedicated to opposing evil, composed of Just'a Lotta Animals. Recently, in our Earth-orbiting satellite...
Sorry to just read basically the whole page, folks, but this is what this whole issue is all about. One-to-one DC Comics animal puns, and I am here for this all day and all night. And we're not even close to being done yet. And from the outside, the satellite of Earth C- looks identical to the one on Earth 1. As we cut into the Earth C- satellite, we are treated to the rest of the JLA, whom I will read from back to front. Rat Tornado, the Martian Anteater, Elongator, Hawk Moose, Zapanda, the Item, Stacked Canary, Green Sparrow, and Firestork. I'm glad Martian Anteater got some representation because John was still basically off the table at this point. Also, kudos for Elongator because Ralph is my top guy at DC, and I know finding a way to make a pun for him to work must have been really hard, and Stack Canary really is just saying the quiet part out loud, isn't it? Hawk Moose asks why they have all been summoned as Green Lambkin informs them that the Earth is about to be attacked by an interstellar armada led by their old foe Kangaroo, and Now, back in issue 2 of this series, it was referred to as Croc Jar Row. So a little continuity gaffe here, but this is the better pun. Now, I am going to stop this review for just a moment so I can deliver some additional heroes and villains of Earth C-, created by myself and my friend JR, aka Candid Gamera on Blue Sky, and just prep for a little Carlinian list, but we had too much fun making these. The Pheasant Stranger, Blue Beagle and Rooster Gold, Mr. Meerkat and his wife Big Borda, Buddy Barker, Guy Garden Snake, Blue Devil Ray, Hair Wave, Captain Marsupial, Power Gala, members of the Legion of Super Pets including Wild Firefox, Swan Star, Monk L, Starfish Boy, Craniac 5, Polar Bear, and Tyrock. Villains are Bizarro, Craniac, Mirror Mastiff, the Pied Pupper, Despero, KG Beaver, the Feral 5, Persuader, Emerald Egress, Validux, Thayrook, and Manowar, Bone, who will break the Bat Mouse, Clay Pigeon, Swine Estro, Gigantelope, Brother Bloodhound, Triguana, Furdegaton, and Vulture Savage. Any cartoonist out there who kind of wants to use some of these, feel free, just CC me on them so I can see them. Back to the review, Super Squirrel explains that the rest of the JLA went after Kangaroo, and it's down to the main 6, which works with the 6 Zoo Crewers. Could have been 7 with Martian Anteater and Little Cheese, but hey, there's more pros to this issue than not. Meanwhile, back in the flashback, Super Squirrel tries to flirt with Wonder Wabbit.
Care to join me in a cup of coffee, Wonder Wabbit?
Well, I doubt if we'll both fit, but check out our fearless leader's super corny come on, lambkin, is all the Crash can whisper at this embarrassing moment. But luckily this is all interrupted by their old rogue, Feline Faust, appearing in a puff of smoke, who quickly magics them all into the middle of an Earthsea New York street, quickly discovering that they are nothing more than mere comic book characters. Following their only lead, the JLA went to Wombat Communications, talking with one of the secretaries.
Excuse me, miss, but I need to talk to the artist who draws your Just'a Lotta Animals comic.
Another weirdo comics fan, huh? Sorry, fella, but Rodney Rabbit's moved out to California.
She didn't have your address, so we approached your publisher. A big mistake compared to Mr. Wombat. Salamander Grumpy's a real pussycat.
No, I don't know where he is, so get back to work.
But we don't work for you, sir.
Everybody works for Wombat. Before making it to Follywood to try and find Earthsea's real-life superheroes, with a Maps to Superheroes Homes stand right out front of the Z building, but the JLA are confused as that they've only found Rodney Rabbit, before he explains that he and Captain Carrot are one and the same and just needs another cosmic carrot as he changes into his costume while going for those carrots locked safely in the vault. As Super Squirrel rips that vault open,
no, don't bother to thank me. Urgh! There you go.
But it wasn't locked! At first, the JLA scoff at Rodney before the cosmic carrots start to kick in, definitely getting Wonder Wabbit's attention. Gee, thanks, little fella. Now, how can Captain Carrot be of super service to you? The JLA are now suitably impressed with the captain, Wonder Wabbit flirting with him, but Batmouse whispers to the other half of the world's furriest, "What's got your fur ruffled, chum?"
Nothing.
As Aqueduct tries to move things forward again,
I hate to be a wet blanket, but it's Rodney Rabbit's cartoonist career that might shed some light on our predicament.
Gosh, I don't know how much help I can offer. I've drawn the JLA strip from the start, but I've only been writing it for a few years. I took that over when the book's creator retired.
How do we get in touch with him?
Keep your cape on, pal. His name's Gardner F. Fox, and he doesn't live too far from here.
Well, what are we waiting for? Let's go!
As Captain Carrot leads them to find his old creative partner, he thinks to himself how he probably should have left a note for the rest of the zoo crew, as Wonder Wabbit continues to make googly eyes at him, and Batmouse continues to think the obvious.
I can see why Super Squirrel's upset. Wonder Wabbit's got a bad case of puppy love.
The valiant varmints arrive at the San Fernando Valley home of Gardner F. Fox, and I think this is all a wonderful little tribute to the creator, because once again, while comedic, it is taking the situation itself seriously, and Fox wrote the book on multiverse hopping. While tending to his garden and musing that the super grow is the only super left in his life, he looks up in shock to see Captain Carrot in the JLA. Captain Carrot justifies finding him, saying that it was a lead from his old protege as the JLA meet their maker, which gets some nice little quips in the book. Gardner F. Fox explains, I think I know what happened. You JLAers must hail from a parallel Earth. Scientists believe that there are many such alternate Earths, all occupying the same space but vibrating at different frequencies. Somehow, my mind years ago must have subconsciously tapped into that other reality while I was writing my funny book stories. As Captain Carrot quickly thinks, and all this time, I thought it was just talent. In fact, I once wrote a comics story based on that concept. Crash of Two Worlds. What I love about all of this is that this is the same exact justification right from Flash 123 and all stories involving Earths 1, 2, and Prime. So I am glad that, again, it is just using this trope straight within the larger DC multiverse, and it is all internally consistent. And Captain Carrot just thinks back to the first story. Yeah, and I met up with a weird human version of old Cheeky here. Called himself Supermax or something. Super Squirrel thanks Fox before taking off, ready to find out who is behind all of this. Cutting back to Earth C-, called that because it is minus our zoo crewers, we find that Feline Faust has allied himself with Dr. Hoot from issue 5, who unfortunately is lacking the bad guy sweater he had on there. The two argue and exposit how this villainous team-up came to be.
Your plan? Why, if it wasn't for my brilliant scientific discovery that allowed me to breach the vibrational barrier separating our worlds.
A discovery, I point out, that you accidentally stumbled upon while attempting to turn a defective blow dryer into a super weapon. Besides, it was my necromantic experiments in interdimensional travel that enabled us to ultimately make contact and cross over.
Before using one of Dr. Hoot's inventions to spy on the zoo crew. The Z Building's red alert is going off as Captain Carrot and the JLA return, coming headlong into the zoo crew.
God darn it! First we blow it with Armadillo and that Amazu creep. Now what? The Incredible Hog?
Oh, there's a long-eared leader up ahead, darlings. But who in the name of Minnow Pearl is that with him? Incredible Hog was already established back in issue 12, so again, this issue is doing a lot of callbacks and editor's notes, and it is greatly appreciated. The zoo crew are coming in for the attack as Captain Carrot panics. I don't recognize them. What are they doing?
Heck, Abra, can't you see? Them's the guys our crime pewter's trying to warn us about. Look it, they've already even captured Cap already. Hang on, pal. I'll save you, Bacon.
Wait a minute, Pig Iron. They look kind of familiar, somehow. Creeping Cabbage, they ought to. Hold your horses, gang. They're not what you think. Super Squirrel just decks Pig Iron.
Stand back, team. Let the Squirrel of Steel polish off this sinister swine of steel. You don't require a Chiptonian intellect, like mine, to realize that these bizarre beasts are the reason for the alarm. No need to thank me, Captain. But,
rats, too late. The fight continues with Pig Iron stuck in a wall, with Fastback and Yankee Poodle up next.
Holy cow! That little fella must have taken one heck of a assertiveness training course. Hey, that was just downright hostile. Come on, folks, let's get him. A star-spangled magnoblast should subdue that chipmunk hunk. He's better looking than Christopher Rhesus. Batmouse battles Alley Cat Tabra naturally, as Green Lambkin fights off Fastback, Yankee Poodle, and Rubber Duck, while Wonder Wabbit just yells for them all to stop. Hey, stop! Let's team up! With everyone but her and Captain Carrot all tangled up in Rubber Duck, the good rabbit thinks to himself, what really wilts my whiskers is that my teammates obviously don't follow my JLA comic book, or they know these characters. Which totally addresses my question from page 3 of why no one else recognizes any of the Just'a Lotta Animal characters. Though I think Fastback would read some just to be nice, and Alley Cat Tabra would, just to at least feign some interest as she tries to flirt with Captain Carrot. The two superhero teams make peace and actually talk with each other. Some highlights include Green Lambkin's talk with Alley Cat Tabra. And my power ring is helpless against anything yellow, Alley Cat Tabra. I wish my magic Wanda was as predictable. Hey, little fella, are you a bat or a mouse? Please, I don't discuss my secret identity. Incredible! You resemble the superhero in those terrific What's-It comics I collected as a hatchling. Terrific What's-It? Which does raise some questions of how Fox's Crash of Two Worlds resembles the actual story, given What's-It is an actual person on his own Earth and uncle to Fastback. Like, did he just give away his whole secret identity there? Captain Carrot coughs to get everyone's attention, as the red alert did go off for a real reason. 4 simultaneous disasters have struck. The San Antieta's fault is causing a mess of earthquakes. St. Howlings is about to erupt. St. Helens having just erupted a few years beforehand. An unknown force is causing havoc on Santa Catalina Island, and something is picking up the trees in Deadwood Forest National Park and throwing them around like toothpicks. Luckily, there's more than enough heroes to handle all these problems. Page 14 is another beautiful spread that will definitely make it into the poster image for this episode. As out in the sky, in front of the Z building, the heroes pair off. Captain Carrot, Super Squirrel, and Wonder Wabbit to San Antietas. Come on, Wonder Wabbit! Since your see-through robot plane's still back on Earth C-, let me lend you a paw.
Careful with the animals on Princess Carrot. Drop her and you'll have to answer to me.
Thanks a lot, Super Squirrel. Fastback, the Crash, and Green Lambkin to Mount St. Howlings. Hey, GL, how about letting Fastback and me race on foot to that volcano?
Sorry, but it's against the Green Lambkin Corps union rules. And the Goat Guardians of Uh-Oh are real sticklers. Well, I could use a little workout.
Yankee Poodle, Rubber Duck, and Aquaduck to Santa Catalina Island.
We're gonna have a great time, Aquaduck. Lots of bikini-clad chicks hang out on the Catalina beaches. Really, Bird? Hang out? Why couldn't I have gone with that scrumptious squirrel?
Sounds just sticky to me, Stretch.
And Alley Cat Tabra, Pig Iron, and Batmouse to Deadwood Forest.
Jeez, this even beats the Zoo Cruiser itself, Abra. Faster, too.
Do not fear, Batmouse. My teleportation spell is harmless, although somewhat disorienting.
I'm fine.
By the flea collar of Scooby-Doo, I've never seen a rodent so grim, so determined. The flea collar of Scooby-Doo is easily the best Doctor Strange-esque exclamation of all time. And if that whole dialogue bit has been building to that joke, it is well worth it. I don't know why they decided to do a text piece right at the bottom of the page explaining everything I just did, given that it will take up the remainder of the issue. But maybe that's a small price to pay for the rest of the splash page. It does kind of fit with like old JLA, JSA crossovers. We finally get to Chapter 2, Whose Fault Is It Anyway, to kick off the first of our 4 two-pagers. Having reached San Antietas, Captain Carrot and Super Squirrel are having a pissing contest to try and impress Wonder Wabbit. Using his X-ray vision, Super Squirrel discovers the source of the earthquakes. Captain Carrot's former co-worker turned foe from issue 6, Digger O'Doom. The heroic trio dig their way into the tunnel he has created. Alright, Digger O'Doom, your little jiggle show is over.
Now for something more cultural, like the taming of the shrew.
You got the wrong critter, pal. I'm all mole. Even if I was a shrew, I'd still tell you, this shrew must go on.
Watch out, SS! He's even deadlier than his jokes! Super Squirrel makes the first move, but Digger O'Doom stomps his foot down, causing a rock to come crashing down onto the hero.
Super Squirrel, huh? Big deal. Doc Who gave me the rundown on you. And you don't sound so tough to me, Super Squirt. Here, dig this. It's your very own rock concert. Hey, it's music to my ears.
Captain Carrot takes advantage of the opening to deliver a series of kicks to the back of the foe's head, before being swatted away and wondering how Digger O'Doom got repowered without one of his cosmic carrots. Which is a good call for the writers to make so that they don't get letters. And I don't remember if this actually gets explained in the next issue. Wonder Wabbit, having had enough of the showboating, tries to lasso the mole up, but he disappears just like every other villain in this story. Captain Carrot catches that he made mention of Dr. Hoot and wonders what role he plays. Shaw does the best job he can to still use Sikowski's design of Digger O'Doom. I just wish he tweaked it a little more to fit the style. And if this series had continued, it would have been really cool if Digger O'Doom and the rest of the villains from the backups all teamed up to make a secretish society of super vipers, even if it was just for an issue. Chapter 3, All You Need Is Lava, starts with the Green Lambkin having caved and let the two speedsters have their race as they arrive on the scene.
Shoot a mile, Crash! Turtle to turtle, I'd swear you're the fastest cuss I'd ever met. Even faster than that Cheshire cheetah I fought a few months ago. You're no sloth yourself, Fastback.
The Crash is the first to point out that Mount St. Howlings is smoking and about to explode, as Fastback sees someone hovering in the smoke. Green Lambkin flies closer to discover that someone is a Amazu, and sees that Captain Carrot was telling the truth of him being on Earth's sea. Amazu states that causing the terror is on the orders of his new master, as Fastback and the Crash come running up the volcano as backup.
Hey, that's the same beastie that the Zoo Crew tussled with back on Rodento Drive. I never did get me a good crack at him.
Wait, Fastback! The JLA's fought Amazu many times, and believe me, he's no pussycat! Amazu quickly flies out of the way of the twin torses of motion, and they just can't stop themselves before running inside the volcano. But the turtles are quick on their feet and in their minds, and use running on the inside of the volcano to their advantage.
Even on a Saturday night, I ain't so fond of hot baths, especially one of the molten rock variety. So, I got an idea. You see, Crash, if we let our centrifugal force carry us around the inside rim of this here volcano, we can avoid this unscheduled bath.
I get ya. And, in the process, our slipstream will cool off the lava, turning it into a solid obsidian plug. You're pretty sharp after all, chum. Doubtful that would work in real life, but this is a funny animal superhero comic, so you've got to learn to leave real science at the door. Taken by surprise, Amazu prepares to flee, but is quickly caught in a classic GL force bubble. The twin cheers of the speedsters are cut short, however, as Amazu once again disappears out of sight, even in the bubble. Shaken, the heroes do catch that the android did name drop Feline Faust as the chapter ends. Chapter 4, Sandy Claus is coming to town. Yankee Poodle is getting seasick as she sits in the raft Rubber Duck has fashioned himself into, as Aqueduct swims beside them. Armadillo is not only terrorizing the islanders on the orders of Dr. Hoot, but is trying to rob them as well on the side. Rubber Duck tries to attack, but is quickly swatted away by Armadillo's branded tail.
Ugh, I forgot about his tail. It chops, slices, dices, and prepares pressed duck.
However, Yankee Poodle is standing on what is revealed to be a whale Aqueduct has summoned to get the villain's attention.
Since when have you been on the cheek set, Armadillo? First Rodento Drive, and now Catalina? Really, dearie, you just aren't our kind of animal.
That's using your lungs, YP. We've got his attention now. Our kind of animal. Yeesh!
So, Aqueduct, like every other hero, has been around Yankee Poodle long enough to know that she is just the worst, but knows that she is at least useful to try and lure Armadillo out into the ocean and thus out of his element. As Armadillo wades his way out, he's ensnared by a pair of lurking octopi as Rubber Duck comes back with a second wind.
How does that grab you, Armadillo? They say 8-armed is forewarned. Something like that. Anyway, now that we've managed to get a toehold on our 9 Brandon nemesis, old Rubber Duck is going to give him a quick lesson in roping.
And I do really like the editor's note explaining exactly what type of armadillo our foe is. Now capturing the waves, Yankee Poodle does deliver a literally stunning blast of her animal magnetism, knocking Armadillo out. Unfortunately, yet again, he fades out before the heroes can question him. Chapter 5. You can't see the furriest for the trees. Our last heroic trio zap into Deadwood Forest, right before a tree is thrown at them.
Holy cow! Get a load of the size of them Deadwood trees! Stay here. I'll scout for clues. Who would possibly destroy these leafy giants? Yo! How's that for clues, Batmouse?
As Pig Iron is naturally the first to fight our last foe, Batmouse explains who he is.
Shaggy Dog's the primitive result of an experiment in creating a new hair restorer. But what's he doing on this world? He's an old JLA foe. Careful, Pig Iron. Shaggy Dog's virtually indestructible. Is that so? Well, this little pig is gonna housebreak him. You hear that, Fuzzy Wuzzy? You're barking up the wrong tree!
Even while Pig Iron does his best, Batmouse knows the synthetic foe has limitless endurance and tells Alley Cat Tabra to capture him with her magic. Not before Shaggy Dog picks up another tree and just wallops Pig Iron with it, who just knows it's going to hurt. Flying overhead, Alley Cat Tabra grabs the canine's attention by magicking up a giant bone, leading him towards Batmouse, who is hiding up in a tree with a classic Batman cape hung down all around him. Batmouse leaps down and dishes out some gas pellets to try and knock him out, but, you guessed it, Shaggy Dog fades out before they can do anything else. Our issue ends with the two teams reassembling at the Z building and comparing notes. They all decide that the most likely scenario is that Feline Faust and Dr. Hoot zap the JLA to Earth C and use the other villains to distract them while they continued on their own nefarious deeds. The best course of action is for all the heroes to go to Earth C-, planning to get there by using every classic Earth 1, Earth 2 convention all at once. Magic, Green Lantern powers, and 2 speedsters running at the same time at the right frequency. Next time, Crisis on Earth C-. I really like this issue. It is a definite step up from last issue. Seeing Shaw definitely full-time on art again was a delight. He absolutely nails all of the Earth C- characters, even the ones who are only there for one page. The puns in this issue are likewise on point. None of them really faltered for me. The only downside is that there is too much happening in this one issue. They easily could have expanded the first 14 pages into a full issue with a few pages of like the Zoo Crew sans Captain Carrot looking for Armadillo, and ended it on the splash page of them breaking off into teams, cutting out the cold turkey issue completely. The next issue would have then expanded sequences for all 4 of the chapters that were crammed in at the very end, because by the very limitation of the page space, everything felt really rushed, and each could have just used some more breathing room. 2 issues also would have meant we could have gotten some more banter amongst the team-ups, because all we really got was Cap and Soups squabbling over Wonder Wabbit, and the 2 turtles just kind of getting along famously. However, like I said, really fun issue. I just wish they had decompressed this whole arc by an issue, which is something I don't normally say. And with that, let's get on to our Looney Tunes pairing. Stupor Duck was originally released on July 7th, 1956. Directed by Robert McKinson, story by Ed Pierce, produced by Edward Seltzer, starring Mel Blanc and Dawes Butler, narrated by Dawes Butler, music by Carl Stalling, animation by Ted Bonnickson, Keith Darling, Russ Dyson, George Grandpré, Harry Love. Layouts by Robert Griberock. Sorry about that, folks. I cannot pronounce that name. And backgrounds by Richard H. Thomas. So even though Butler absolutely did the narration, he didn't get any credit because that was actually part of Mel Blanc's contract, where he would get sole credit. So even June Foray, best we know as like Witch Hazel and the like, never got credit for her classic Looney Tunes appearances. One of the biggest surprises to me doing this show was how much I disliked the Super Rabbit short, which I covered back in episode 2. The main problem was that if you cut out the Superman parody, which was very superficial, it would have played just fine as a regular Bugs Bunny short going up against an evil cowboy who wasn't even Yosemite Sam. And with Super Squirrel taking center stage, I thought it was best to handle the other major superhero Looney Tunes parody. Where Stupor Duck does succeed is the parody is much more on point and needs the Superman aspect for it to work at all. This was obviously helped by the fact that by 1956, there was more Superman material to work with. The Adventures of Superman with George Reeves having been on the air for a few years at this point, if nothing else. The short opens like Super Rabbit did with the faster than a speeding bullet cork pop gun, more powerful than a locomotive, a rickety train about to fall off the tracks, and able to leap tall buildings, where Daffy's cape is caught on the flagpole on the top, choking him. We luckily do not waste any time with an origin, which Super Rabbit parodied nothing with, as we cut to Daffy in this short as mild-mannered reporter Cluck Trent typing at his office. Moving to the water cooler by the closed door of the editor's office, he eavesdrops and hears what sounds to be a series of threats coming from the villainous Aardvark Ratnik, but is actually a corny soap opera the editor is watching on his TV. Cluck Trent dashes into the nearby supply closet and repeats a gag, first coming out in the wrong costume. This time it's a witch's outfit, before storming into the editor's office as Stupor Duck. He opens a window to begin his flight out to try and defeat the villainous Aardvark Ratnik's evil schemes, but it closes down as he leaps, sending Stupor Duck flying through the glass and crashing into the next building. What begins next is a series of parodies of Superman feats of strength. Stupor Duck sees a building begin to collapse, gets under it, and pushes it right back into place. While landing and saying that there's no need for thanks, the demolition expert who is getting rid of the building to put in the new city hall just punches him right in the face. Next, flying out over the ocean, Stupor Duck spots what he thinks is a sinking ship, but is obviously a submarine before getting blasted by a deck gun and then a torpedo. Daffy fares better here than against Elmer Fudd. All of his body parts are still in the right place, and he's just not riddled with holes. He is Stupor Duck, after all. Next, he spots a bunch of dynamite set up right underneath a railroad bridge and swoops it up into the air, completely unaware that this was part of a movie being filmed by Warner Brothers. The film crew does not see him do this and blows up the dynamite while Stupor Duck is still holding it in his arms up in the air. And he just gets all his feathers blown off here. Finally, there is what Stupor Duck thinks is a nuclear missile, but it's really just a lunar rocket that he tries to stop, and gets his costume completely blown off while 2 nearby hikers give the "up there in the sky, it's a bird" It's a plane. No, it's Stupor Duck. Before we iris in as Stupor Duck gets carried off to the moon. While I would not say this is a classic short, I do think it does better to parody the Man of Steel than Super Rabbit did. Daffy here is at least trying to do good, but it is always funny to see him get hurt for his mistakes. Another strength of this short is that it is much tighter than Super Rabbit, coming in at just 6.5 minutes, about 30 seconds shorter than your average Looney Tunes short, which doesn't sound like a lot, but could have made room for some more gags. Maybe Porky Pig making a cameo in the opening scene as Cup reporter Piggy Oinkson, or Melissa Duck as Louise Lark. Something like that could have worked and made the parody even better. But still, all in all, I had a good time watching this, and if you're a superhero fan, definitely give it a watch. So, there's nothing left to say, but that's all, folks!